I am Bertha Barrientos, and I am in group number 3.
Hello, my name is Alexa Perez.
Hello, I'm Ethan Steele.
Good afternoon. My name is Austin Miller.
Hello, my name is Anthony Sullivan.
Hi, my name is Krieger Hernandez. Okay, I'm going to be talking about our country. And first, we decided to name the country Plato. And it had roughly 72 million people living there. And it was a democratic government. We chose free market economy and a progressive culture because those would probably be the best characteristics for a zombie simulation, since everyone would be a little bit more tolerable to the decisions for safety. And we also chose on our decisions for that chose tolerant of an ethnic groups and a strong central government. We chose those because we thought those would be the most positive and best characteristics for the zombie simulation, since having a strong central government would allow them to make better decisions and have it be the best outcome. And with that, it came these negative characteristics, which is a country mandated religion and many enemies at our borders. For event 1, religious holiday. So the pros for this would be having the safety of the people will likely be increased. Less people will also be infected. So those are the pros in this banning the pilgrimage outright. The cons for that would be having a great deal decrease in morale, and people will start to distrust the government. And also with that, a decision of banning the pilgrimage outright, we would also increase police presence along major routes to the Faith Tower, assuming pilgrims will participate regardless of safety. So if they're going to participate, we want them to be as safe as possible, so we decided to increase the police presence there. And why did we do this? Well, having a country-mandated religion in our country made this an extremely hard decision, because clearly this event was very important to our people. But in light of this strange virus, we had to be careful and to ban this event. Keeping the virus under control and from spreading was the government's main concern. For the outcome, we were able to succeed in banning the majority of pilgrims out of the city, so it helped. And some still attended, but there was no incident, so that was the positive side. But the public perception is that the government overreacted. I mean, we had to take safety into this since we knew this was a simulation, and the morale of the people continues to decline. And all in all of our group members, we did not regret our decision, and we fully support the outcomes. And we held the safety as our main priority.
NSET Technologies is a private company that created a testing device for the new virus. Recently, a whistleblower came forward and informed the government of a defect in the device, which causes false positive results, meaning that healthy people were testing positive and being sent to quarantine facilities. Before we could decide whether we should go public with the defect or not, we had to take into consideration the impact this information would have on the public and the economy. Ultimately, we decided to go forward with the defect and remove the product from the market, publicly committing to the government support for a new and improved product. During times of need, companies will do anything to improve sales and take advantage of the fragile market. NSET Technologies should have kept in mind their social responsibility as a business to maximize their ethical position. Instead, NSET Technologies chose to keep the defect secret even though they knew they were harming many people. Our actions allowed us to punish them and remind the public that we would not allow companies to take advantage of the situation for the purpose of making profit. The economy took a hit and few lives were lost, but these were all short-term effects. As a team, we all agreed on our decision. In this event, we had to deal with a company who created a fraudulent vaccine. The whole country was in a craze, trying to obtain it, but it was up to the government to decide whether we should subsidize it or not. This decision was very difficult to make because it was the only source of hope the people of Plato had. The government had no solutions to preventing or treating those infected, which is why this vaccine appeared so appealing. Knowing that the morale was at an all-time low, we felt trapped in making a decision that would only cause an uprising or spread misinformation. All the indecision led us to defer making a decision. The results were disastrous. Riots broke out, and the public morale plummeted. Looking back, we should have chosen to subsidize the vaccine as a way to foster the most amount of happiness. Sometimes all people need is a sign of hope to keep surviving.
We were faced with an opportunity to upload software by a company named Iconics that had high and positive outcomes to help detect the infected. We had to choose if the best way to track the information was to upload without approval of the people. There was no time to pass laws and regulations. We had to act quickly as we needed to save our country. Our thought process as a group is as follows. The pros by uploading this software would include: our government will be able to detect outbreaks faster and more effectively by using the software. Using the application, the government will be able to minimize the infection rate and be able to control infections better. The cons of uploading this software are: running the software without permission and it being illegal could result in the country feeling that their privacy was invaded. The Iconics enterprise may have been a huge success, but there are still possibilities of unreliable results. If this occurs, there will be a panic and a drop in our morale. As a team, we decided to run the software, but we also assigned a PR communications team to determine how to share the story with the public. We chose to upload this software because organizing an application that can prevent and migrate and control the pandemic spread helps the country deal with the panic that followed the rapid escalation of the infection. Keeping the nation informed about the plan is the most effective way to build trust and morale between the citizens and the government. Our outcome by uploading this software is the software worked as planned. Lives were saved with the new quality of information. But unfortunately, the morale has fallen in light of the government's illegal activities. To help create a vaccine for future infections, we had isolated areas where research could be completed. However, we were at a point where we were losing control, and we had to make a decision that could have a major impact upon us all. To eliminate the spread, we had to determine whether bombing would be the most effective. As a team, we decided the pros and cons for doing so and moving forward with military assault. The pros: it prevents the infection from spreading throughout the city and our country. It limits the possibility of terrorists or other countries using this against us or our military. The cons is whether we kill infected or innocent people who take the risk of caring for the infected or research for a cure for the country to survive. We still risk killing innocent people. We also, as researchers, we may lose their chance to provide a solution to develop a cure for the rest of the country. As a team, we decided to order the military assault, but we also decided to give the medical team 2 more days to research, then order the attack. Why did we decide this? It goes without saying that reducing suffering and saving lives are morally important, and there are strong reasons to support efforts to make that happen. Innovations that can contribute to addressing these harms require an ethical assessment to be made based on the understanding of the data and analysis over the dramatic scale of the deaths and suffering described. It became essential to save our country, even if it meant killing the infected, because the disease would eventually spread to our whole country and no one would have survived. As a result, in our outcome, the assault succeeds in eliminating the infected. Higher military casualties than expected. Most of the volunteers and activists perish in the assault. Majority of the public is displeased with the results.
Jared Vanette, portrayed by Ryan Gosling. Vanette is the executive in charge of global asset-backed security trading at Deutsche Bank. Vanette agrees with Burry's assessment on the housing bubble popping due to subprime mortgages' inevitable default rate spike. He then went to investors to try and maximize his holdings of subprime mortgage shorts. Based on a deontological ethical theory, Jared was ethical because he was duty-bound to make money on the market's shortcomings. Based on a Kantian ethical viewpoint, his actions during the meeting with Baum and his associates would be considered ethical. Lying as a financial agent in New York in 2007 would almost be considered a social normalcy.
I'm going to be discussing one of the main characters in the film, The Big Short. The character goes by the name of Mark Baum, and he's a fictional character based off a man by the name of Steve Eidsman. He's a hedge fund manager during the economic crisis. He appears to be one of the most ethical characters in the film, and he tries to sustain a sense of moral obligation throughout. He appears to be unfulfilled with how the industry is running things and how the corruption is just on a steady incline. At this point, he decides to start shorting different organizations and decides to ultimately try to take down the industry from within. Just like the other characters in the film, he believes that the economy is going down in the U.S. housing market and the economy will soon collapse. At this point, that's when he decides to start shortening and start taking from different institutions in the financial field. Mark also believes that certain high-risk securities, high-risk loan securities, have been receiving ratings that are unearned and undeserved, and he feels that is extremely unethical, and he just decides to start doing what he can about it. One of the, I guess you can say, famous quotes from the film that Mark describes is as follows: "I have a feeling in a few years, people are going to be doing what they always do when the economy tanks. They will be blaming immigrants and poor people." This is just a short synopsis of this character. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, so Michael Burry, portrayed by Christian Bale in the film, we deemed as a group that his actions were indeed ethical. Michael Burry he was the guy who basically found out that he should invest in this way and it could be profitable. Dr. Burry had the responsibility of managing a savings fund filled with private investors. These were people that had trusted him with their personal money in hopes for a better future. His responsibility was to these people and to the company as well. Throughout the entire investing process, he remained transparent and proceeded with the best interest for his people and invested responsibly. I think the important thing there is transparency. He recognized that he had a duty and fulfilled that duty. So this ideology or belief of ethical behavior is actually seen in our textbook and is known as deontology. This is the belief that when conducting business, to do it in an ethical way, you should proceed with the duty or interest that you've already committed to in mind. And so I think that's very clear that that's how Dr. Burry was conducting his business, even though the film did not expressly say that. It was very clear that he had the best interest of his investors in mind the entire time. Ben Rickett was another character seen in the film. He was portrayed by Brad Pitt. His role in the film is essentially he was helping this younger group of guys invest the money in the stock market because they didn't really have an in or a way to do that. We deemed as a group that Ben's actions were not specifically unethical. However, he was directly supporting two investors who were actively trying to coerce the stock market into failure, for their best interest, which could be considered ethical. Unlike Dr. Burry, they did not have a duty or group of hedge fund or group of funds that they were supporting. They were simply investing for their best interest. However, when he did see them acting unethically or, straying from the proper mindset, he did put them in line and let them know that and help them understand the consequences to their actions. So in the end, we deemed Ben's participation not unethical. In other words, ethical. He was acting with trust and good faith to the people he was helping invest, though it be in their own personal interests. He was under contract to them. And this is something that we learned about in our textbook, and it goes back to a really old theory. And it's kind of aligned with the same virtues that Confucian believed in, the Confucian virtue ethics. And this is through the idea that by supporting his neighbor out of good faith, when he was asked why he helped his neighbor, he had no other words to express why. He just did it out of good faith and trust of them.
Lessons learned. Below are some lessons we have learned through the zombie simulation and the movie The Big Short. Ethical decisions are not always as black and white as they might appear. Hindsight is 20/20. You never know what information was available to those making the decision during that time. As with the zombie simulation, we had to make quick judgments that affected millions of people. This was not as easy of a task as initially thought. That being said, the government has a fiduciary responsibility to the people to solve collective action problems. Being able to make decisions about military matters, health infrastructure, and the economy requires a multifaceted approach to dealing with the various ethical situations that arise. A one-size-fits-all approach does not work. We had to craft our responses to each of the scenarios, generally following a utilitarian view, trying to achieve the greatest outcome for the largest amount of people, while other times adopting a Kantian view of ethics, following a moral sense of direction bound by obligation and duty to our role as a decision maker. This can be shown by ordering the military strike on the infected, activating the spying software, and canceling the holy pilgrimage with the police presence. Lowering credit standards to less than industry standards is never good. Background checks such as income verification, credit checks, and employment history checks are foundational elements to identifying the risk of a loan. By foregoing these, it was only a matter of time before the default rate spiked. Thus, loans now have more stringent requirements for acceptance than before the market crash of 2008. Big banks will never be held responsible for the market crash of 2008. According to the movie, only one person went to jail. The bankers writing and bundling the subprime mortgages knew the government would bail the banks out at the taxpayers' expense. In the movie, the main unethical actions were committed by the investment bankers, the bond rating agencies, and subprime mortgage lenders, not necessarily by that of the characters. Tighter government regulations were brought about as a result of the market crash of 2008, with the Dodd-Frank Act and the Emergency Economic Stabilization Act being just two. You can only make decisions with information you have on hand. Everyone likes to comment after the fact, but consideration must be given to the decision maker in that moment. New information is regularly brought to light after a decision is made. We don't know what the outcomes would be after making decisions in the zombie situations, but based on the results of those decisions, we might not have made the same choice knowing the end result. Sometimes during extenuating circumstances, some privacy rights may be bent. We chose to go ahead and use the spy software. The end justified the means in our collective view. One bad apple can ruin the bunch. A zombie can affect a lot of people, or one bond ratings appraiser can cause a lot of damage. Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Winston Churchill. Because of the critical nature of the finance industry to the economy as a whole, financial regulation and oversight is critical. This is to keep things from happening, such as the 2008 market crash.